7:01. It's time for Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, episode number 42. What are you doing, Logan?
Moving my chair.
Logan is my guest host tonight. He's got 3 things he wants to talk about because I told him he was going to have to talk about 2. And that's the way we do things around here. Off the cuff, make it work however it works. And Logan's showing you the T-shirt that you could be purchasing on the Dirt Bike Test store. But we're not shipping out anything until after Christmas because we don't want to plug up the postal service. I know that we get such a rash of orders that it could literally shut down the post office before Christmas. So you're not going to get your Dirt Bike Test T-shirt for Christmas. Don't promise it to anybody. In fact, after Christmas, we may not even have this podcast or whatever we call it anymore, and then you won't even know how to get T-shirts. Although you could go to dirtbiketest.com and get a T-shirt there. So if you're wondering what Tech Talk Taco Tuesday is, can you say that out loud, Logan?
Tech Talk Taco Tuesday.
Perfect. It's a show where we talk about
motorcycle-related questions.
Yeah, motorcycles and motorcycle-related products. We answer questions. Sometimes motocross. What about flat track? Do we talk about flat track?
Not much, but maybe tonight.
Maybe tonight. Why would we talk about flat track tonight?
Because we were doing it about an hour ago.
That's right. Out here in Pahrump, Valley of the Dirt People, we have a dirt flat track surrounded by, what would you call those? Dilapidated single wides? Yeah. It's the single wide flat track.
Single wide city.
Yeah. So over the past month or so, I've been dragging some dirt, putting some sand down, tilling, cultivating. It was all kind of in anticipation. I went to American Super Camp a few weeks ago to learn how to properly flat track, which was awesome. And I did that, by the way, if you're looking for some motorcycle instruction that's fun and will help you. American Super Camp is very good. But anyways, I went there, but before I went there, I decided I wanted to practice a little bit, and I had this lot, and I just dug a flat track into it and started sliding around on my TTR 125, and tonight it was the XR 100, which I'm a little disappointed about because my mechanico, he says he's not a mechanic. So Gabe, who's not, what are you, not a producer of the podcast either? But he's got the logo up there. The logo's working about as good as the XR 100 did today. It was sputtering on the top, right, Logan?
Yes.
But that wasn't a problem for you.
No, I couldn't get to the top.
Yeah. He had more of a motocross style. He was using the whole turn. And I was trying to dive it in a little bit deep, back it in, get on the power, ride the brake into the turn, all the stuff that I teach you not to do in my class, because it's like combining. It's a very advanced skill, and it's combining this other stuff. And you'd think after all these years, and I talk about what an expert rider I am. Man, I'm a novice at that because I need to practice a lot more. You know how when you watch somebody that thinks they know how to ride, but you just watch them and they don't know how to ride?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you knew how to ride flat track and you watched me, I'd be that guy.
Probably.
Yeah, it's really bad. It looks pretty fun though.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, your dad shot a video of us. I watched it. I looked really slow. It hurt to watch it. So
it was the bike.
It was the bike. Yeah, because I couldn't get it up on top end, Gabe. It sputtered. I let you borrow that thing, and I expected to come back tuned like a racehorse. Clean the carb, not tune it. I know, and you were using it to teach a beginner rider how to ride, and I'm sure they weren't bouncing it off the rev limiter. But it was low on oil too, by the way. P.S. So, anyways, we have some questions from our viewers. It's funny because a lot of people, you see this on YouTube. Currently, I don't know how long we'll do it for. We do it live on Facebook on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So if you come to our Dirt Bike Test Facebook page, you can watch it there. Sometimes we take calls. Sometimes we answer questions live in the kind of the chat room that's going on. So when you wonder why we're talking about stuff that we're seeing, it's stuff that's going on in the chat room. We've actually tried to switch it over to YouTube, but currently we're having a little bandwidth problem here. I think we probably ran over some of the wires out in the flat track that are connecting us to the internet.
Probably.
So, yeah. Anyways, so we have a sheet full of questions. About halfway through the show, we've decided that we are going to take some calls. If you have questions, everybody write down this number. I'm sure somebody will put it in the chat room. Why don't you do it, Logan? Why don't you be like, oh, George, is George there?
Yeah.
Okay, he'll do it then. The number is 775-451-3328. And the reason we're waiting till halfway through the show is because we're poor people out here, and it actually costs us like 9 cents a minute to run that phone line. So we're working at the rate of how well we're sponsored. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Did you get me a sponsor?
No.
No. Wasn't that your job?
No.
No?
I didn't think so.
Okay. Well, you need to write your speeches. You need to get the sponsors. And what was the other thing I just said? Oh, yeah, you can handle all this technical stuff that we're messing up on. So let's talk about motorcycles, Logan. What do you want to talk about?
I was wondering why the Yamaha made a black Yamaha.
So that would have been a few years back. It was a special edition.
No, the most recent one.
They have one that's the most recent ones are black. Wow.
Yeah. One of them's on your Dirt Bike Test website.
It is.
Yeah.
One of the smart people on the dirtbiketest.com must have put that up there. If a lot of times they do the special editions, like they have the regular color. I remember when I liked the yellow one, the one that was like the old yellow Yamahas, and the ones that Bob Hanna rode. You know who Bob Hanna is?
Yes.
Yeah, good kid. So it's actually, believe it or not, this shirt. This shirt is kind of, remember the HRP logo? Yeah, that's where I actually asked Bob if we could kind of steal the design, and he was cool with it. Yeah. But I like the yellow ones. They have like I remember they had a teal one last year. I rode a teal and kind of like your bike. Your bike has that light blue in it, but the black ones are generally, it's just a special edition. And I think it has to do with their association with Monster, because like some of the teams, a lot of the Yamaha teams are kind of Monster sponsored, and Monster likes to have black bikes if they can.
Yeah.
So could be some of that. I know a lot of the Yamaha's always been really picky about the color. You know what color? It was red and white. Remember back in the 80s, that was their corporate colors. Then why are the ones in the United States yellow? And then all of a sudden they're blue. Then okay, now we're blue, different colors. So you're asking the wrong guy. I don't know. I actually like the black ones. I thought they looked pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, better than your white one.
I don't know.
You don't know? You can buy more plastic. Cherbys makes good plastic. They probably have a plastic kit that's whatever color you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay. Let's see. We've got the phone number up there. So actually hit us in the chat room if you're going to call in. Let us know that you're going to call in so we can plug our phones in. Let's see. Got some of the regulars in here. Steve Conklin moved to Colorado Springs. That's good, Steve. Lots of adventure riding up there. I think I knew that you were going to do that. I think you texted me or something like that. So we're going to get to the questions here. Control Freak Australia asks, he's talking about the Honda Sierra 450. He says the LX is more my speed, shit fuel economy, but the power is there at almost 50 horsepower. You know what he's asking about?
Not really.
You know this ding dong that's calling us during the show?
Oh.
Yeah. Tell him we're busy. He's doing that on purpose, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what Control Freak Australia is trying to get at with the Honda Sierra 450. I thought it got good fuel economy. I mean, maybe he's talking about since the tank is small, it doesn't go really that far. But yeah, it's a comment more than a question. This is what you get on the tubes of you and where all the experts go to exchange information. It's a free economy of information. So you're getting what you pay for, and maybe more than that. And it's just hard to tell what you're going to get. So Delco Tel Computer Support asks, and he's talking about Rekluse clutches.
Oh, I have installed 3.0 on my Harley Sportster on a
68,000 kilometer on the clock.
I just hope I had from the time I bought it well-explained video good man.
Yeah. So he's he came across our Rekluse clutch explained video, and he wishes he had found that and the Rekluse earlier. I'm wearing a Rekluse hat right now. Is that a coincidence?
I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I. One of the Rekluse clutches are kind of like a love it or hate it thing. With especially with more experienced or seasoned riders. You know why, Logan?
I don't know.
Do you like Rekluses?
A little.
A little. Well, you just blew my point out of the water. I said love it or hate it, and you said I like it a little. That's in between. Perfect. So the funny thing is I rode them when they were in the very beginning when they were called Revlocks. It wasn't a Rekluse. They were two separate companies, very similar products, and they worked kind of like they do now, but just horribly. They were horrible compared to the way they are now. They're so refined now. And so generally if someone doesn't like a Rekluse, it's probably because they've never ridden with one, or they never gave it a chance when they hopped on the bike. They hopped on the bike and they wouldn't just let the Rekluse do the work. They kept trying to modulate their fingers and stuff. And as someone who I feel is probably in the top 10% of clutch usability, I think maybe. Did you give me that?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Remember, this is a podcast. Shaking your head up and down doesn't work when it's just coming out of your phone.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I'm pretty good with my clutch, and I like not having to ever touch the damn lever. So, but that's because they're for old men. And if you ask anybody who Rekluses are for, they'll say they're for old people. Yeah.
Lazy people.
Yeah, lazy people. Those two, but lazy and old kind of come together. I know some young lazy guys that probably could use Rekluses, but so where was I going with this? Yeah, it's kind of a love it or hate it thing, and until you just kind of let go of the clutch and let it do all the stuff, and more so than I've seen it take riders to another ability level. Because all of a sudden it was one less thing they had to think about, so they could actually pick the right line or maybe concentrate on their throttle control, as opposed to doing those two things and working their two fingers or maybe their whole hand on the clutch, however they did it. It takes people up a skill level, and it also teaches them to quit slipping the damn clutch. Because I see so many people that are afraid of their bike stalling. They won't let it go down to where there's still plenty of torque. They're 10 or 15 horsepower too much, and they're taking that power out by slipping the clutch, and then they lose control of the clutch, and instead of getting the 8 horsepower they need, they get 36. And what do you think happens then?
No traction.
Or
loop out.
Loop out, right? And generally, right when that starts happening, they pull the clutch in again, and then what do they have? Nothing. And then they pop it out again, and then it either spins more or loops out more. It's yeah. So if you have a chance, just take one and put it around. Go ride some really technical stuff and put your hand on your head, because you're obviously at that point, if you don't need a Rekluse, you're such a good rider that you don't need to do anything with that hand. You're so balanced and everything. And listen to the motor. Listen to your motor when you're doing that stuff, and then trust it. So okay, was that a Rekluse commercial?
Quite. Maybe.
Quite, yeah, almost sounded like one. Hey, you know what else I've been actually testing some of Rekluse's oil, and I don't know what I think yet because it takes a long time to test oil. You can't just do it in 10 minutes like a lot of those other editorial outlets do. Okay. Next question. What is this one here? What's that name? Sabaticus, yeah. He says, at dirt bike test, are you using Trail Tech mounts or another product? And he is referring to our Tour of Idaho video where I run 2 Trail Tech Voyagers. Not the Voyager Pro because it was done 3 or 4 years ago, but the Voyagers. And yes, I'm using their billet housing, like the protector, and their stock kind of L-shaped bracket that's actually bolted onto my crossbar of a flex handlebar. So I would say that other than bolting it onto the crossbar, that is a Trail Tech mount. So hopefully that answers that question. Richard Stremlow asks,
I'm fixing to buy a 300. I'm down to deciding between a XCW or an XC. Could you provide some input on the difference?
Every week, I provide the answer to this question. So, for the record, you know what I'm going to say? I'm going to say refer to episode 16 through 41 for the answer to this question. Whatever the weekend I rode the 2020 KTM 300, whatever episode that was. Since then, because I rode the XC and the XCW up in Washington, I have not ridden the XC since then, so I'm based on my opinion on that. But it's been consistent ever since KTM has had an XC and an XCW. The more that you are going to go to motocross tracks, think XCF or XC. I'm sorry, XC. The more you're thinking about extreme enduro, think XCW. And then you can start blending in the middle. It's not to say that an XCW cannot do a motocross track. It's just not set up for that. And then an XC is not necessarily set up for extreme enduro. Will XC do single track? Absolutely. The differences really are the transmission ratios and the suspension. The XC has linkage and a little bit stiffer setup, and the air fork. XCW has open cartridge spring fork, PDS suspension, and wide ratio gearbox. But currently, the motors are identical as far as the power producing parts, right down to the tuning on the ECU from what I'm told and what I experienced. So, yeah, should I ever answer that question again? Every week. Next week? Just next week? Okay, maybe Big John will call in and ask that question just to annoy us. Right?
Oh.
When's he going to come back and guest host with us? Let's see. Hey, by the way, Johnny Campbell is the new leader for most views. Last weekend was really good. I haven't even checked the YouTube numbers, but the ones on Facebook were kind of out of this world. So if you want to hear Johnny Campbell stories, go back and look at episode 41, which I don't know. It's up on the YouTubes, right? With that technical difficulty thing. That's on me, by the way. But you did a good job of fixing that because I looked like a blithering, when that happened. Next question. Speaking of that, that's Joe Doyle.
Oh.
Start there.
Cool T4. Great.
That's Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, by the way. He just doesn't want to spell it out.
Great to see Jimmy and Johnny talking old riding stories. Jimmy, if you haven't already, could you please solve the mystery of bar bends, heights, risers, etc.? I'm 6'1", long arms, and legs short torso. I like my bars vertical rather than kicked slightly back at an angle.
Rocks 1-inch risers, 1-inch forward.
Is this a poor practice or bad habit? Some say it is on
YouTube.
Bad handling, shakes, and shimmers. I haven't noticed this, but I'm not a pro like you. What are your thoughts?
Well, thanks for enjoying Jimmy and Johnny stories. We didn't even get into it. I could have destroyed Johnny Campbell with stories. Actually, he could probably destroy me too with stories. I was actually there when God gave Johnny Campbell his first beer, and I kid you not, that is one of the funniest things that's ever happened that I've been with Johnny. Sometimes we'll get him back, and somebody has to remind me to tell that story. But because Johnny's very religious, and he really takes that serious in a great way, and he doesn't drink, or he didn't drink. And we were out riding one day, and something magical happened. So, anyways, let's see. Now back to the question. Well, I can't really tell anything about how your bike should be set up as far as bar risers and bar bends and all that stuff until I actually see you ride. And it doesn't matter whether your legs are short and your arms are long or vice versa. It really depends on how you bend and maneuver on the bike. Now, a strange thing happens when you do certain things to your motorcycle. So when you gotta remember it. The bike kind of pivots around the steering stem to a certain extent, and your handlebars are connected to the steering stem. And if you think about if you wanted to be stable, and you wanted to do a pull-up on something that pivoted on the center, you would have those bars closer to you as opposed to farther away from you in reference to the center. So you wouldn't want it on top of the center. You'd want it on the bottom of the center, because just the way, if you hang there, all your weight's hanging on that thing and it'll center up. If you're on top of it, you can cause it, the more you go, you cause it to be unstable. Is this making kind of sense? So when you start putting handlebars in front of the center, front of the center stem, the steering stem, it makes it easier for it to be unstable in certain situations. And it's funny because under braking, the exact opposite happens. If your weight goes up onto the handlebars. So when the bars are behind the center stem, you have the propensity to make it a little unstable. So there's kind of a fine line in there, and it depends on the geometry of the bike, how it's set up. It's all kinds of crazy stuff. And it really depends on where you are on the bike and how you ride the motorcycle. So the good thing about the Rocks risers, by the way, is they're very adjustable. They allow, you can pivot the bars and move them forward and back, and you can make big changes with that. You can angle it back and lean the bars forward, and then angle the Rocks risers forward and lean the barn back, and essentially have it in the same spot. But it has a different sensation. The bike actually feels a little bit different. I've tried this. That's how I know. But what the common poor practice is raising your bars too high, which kind of puts you in a back position. You kind of tend to lean back. It forces your upper body back, and then you watch. I kind of call it the standard adventure rider. I watched YouTube riding position, where it looks like you're thrusting your pelvis forward, and your shoulders are back behind your pelvis, and you're going, look at me, I'm standing up, and touching the handlebars, which you should bend at the hips, and the hips should go back the other direction. Just watch any high-level rider. You're never going to see their pelvis in front of their shoulders unless they're crashing. So, but if you haven't noticed the shakes and shimmies that you're talking about, that's probably good. But again, man, it all kind of depends. I think Fast Company, and I haven't seen it yet. I know Cole's, Cole Townsend at Fast Company get calls about this stuff all day. So I think they did some sort of a blog post. Maybe George out there might find it and dig it up. They did a post about bar riser positions and handlebar positions, and it got a lot of traction. So that's probably some pretty good information because he talks to people all day long about this. I know where I like my bars. I'm picky about it, but do not go put your bike on the center stand or up on a stand and then like reach down and say, "Hey, look, my bars are too low," because you're never riding like that. You're always able to lean forward and accelerate. And even when you decelerate, you actually kind of like, fold and lean backwards. So you're actually bending down towards the bars. I mean, if you're really having to hunch over and reach for the bars, yeah, then there's some height, but a lot to it. Stuff there. Vidmoto asks,
these are always great. Just a reminder, it would be great if you kept iTunes podcast up to date with the issues, please.
Oh, that's not a question. That's a comment. So he's hoping that we keep our iTunes up to date. I think I had somebody help me do some of the iTunes stuff. I don't know if they're still getting put up there. It would be really nice if they were up to date too. I really wanted to have some sponsors to plug in there to make it worth our time to put it up there. But you didn't get us any sponsors, Logan.
No, I didn't.
So, once that happens, it's going to happen real quick. That's what I'm going to invest that money that we get for sponsorship into getting the episodes up onto iTunes. Like, if you think I'm going to take it and run down the street and go someplace else with it, then you're got to be fooling. Okay. PGI Radar 26.
What are the base Honda models that Johnny Campbell used to win Baja?
Johnny Campbell won Baja on an XR 600 as a base model. 1 year he did it on a 628, and I know the next year he did it on a 600 because that's the year I did it with him. And the year that I rode the 628, I said I'd never ride that pile of crap again. We're going to ride a 600 because at least when I hold it wide open, I know it'll go 80 miles an hour, not 65 like the 628 did. That's really bad. Remember we talked about him getting hot? Yeah. So one time we used a real XR 600, believe it or not. It was only 600. A little high compression piston and a really good cylinder head and good cam, HRC cam in it. But then they switched over to the XR 650, and I think that's where he did the bulk of his wins was on the XR 650R. And then they moved to Honda CRF 450X. And those were the bikes that Johnny did his Baja winning on. So that is the answer to the question. The Duke says.
No, that's the dangerous part of using Rekluse.
Yeah, so here's the dangerous part of using a Rekluse. Besides it making you a better rider and you're going to go up a level in skill if you're not an expert already and all that stuff. If you leave your bike in gear and it's idling and your buddy decides to walk up to it and twist the throttle to see how crisp your throttle response is, and the bike lunges generally into the side of the most expensive vehicle in the parking lot, that's a dangerous part of the Rekluse. I think they used to have stickers that they were putting on the bikes that had them or something like that. But, you shouldn't be twisting the throttle on the bike when you're not on it. It's just kind of common sense. But, hopefully, that is a dangerous part, the Duke. George Pennington asks, he says, why is there nobody's asking questions? They're just making statements. What's that?
Or you could buy a YZ450 FX and a set of fork springs and be good to go.
So we have up on the website, courtesy of Trevor Hunter, how to put a 6-speed into your KTM XC, your 450 XC, kind of like he did, so he could be going about 20 miles an hour faster when he hit that donkey. And George is mentioning that you could buy a YZ450 FX that has a true wide ratio 5-speed in it. And he feels like you need a set of fork springs, and then you'd be good to go. So thanks, George, for that information. I think all these guys need to start their own podcasts. Everybody else is doing it. And they could just diss out all this advice. But it's good. I'll read it out loud. I'm not afraid. Curtis Kelly, last minute was asking me about the Climb Knack Pack. He said, my thoughts on it. That's actually kind of the thing I'm wearing mostly. I was wearing the Arsenal vest for a long time when I was trail riding because I like to carry stuff, tools, things, water. So I have been wearing the Knack Pack lately just because it's so easy to get on. It's one clip, on and off. It has enough room for all the stuff I want to carry. Pretty comfortable. I wouldn't call it a race fit because it is a little bit loose. It doesn't really have like a lot of the packs will have like a belt that goes around the waist to really keep it from bouncing around. And he said something about it doesn't come with a hydration bladder. I thought it did. I'm pretty sure mine did come with a hydration bladder. So, yeah, you have to check into that. And the thoughts on the cell phone pocket in the front. I have an iPhone, whatever this is. It's a 6 or 7. It's a 6 or 7 or something. 7. And it just barely fits in that front pocket. But I also wear Climb pants that have pockets and legs, and it fits in there better. So I'm all about the pockets. I think it's a good pack. There's some other companies that make some interesting packs as well. I mean, if you really want a lot of kind of modular storage, that Arsenal vest is pretty awesome as well. I'm happy with mine. I really like it. Okay, we're gonna go to questions on the in the chat room. Any good ones? Anybody see any good ones come through? Let's see. You should invite Travis Horn. That kid is amazing on the flat track. Okay. Where are the warm hams? The warm hams, Jay, are on the living room floor because I'm gonna hop on a motorcycle. What's the temperature outside? 35.
Freezing.
34. Can I get 33? Go down to cold. Got it.
I'm gonna go to freezing.
I'm gonna ride back to California tonight on my KTM 1190 with heated grips on it, and I'm going to be bundled up in Climb gear, lots of layers. Yeah, I have an electric vest, but it has a BMW plug on it, so it doesn't work on KTM's. Let's see. Travis was in the class, right? That was the Super Camp class. Where are we at here? Great riding here. Good. We had great riding today too. Was that dirt?
Wow. That was nice.
It's a special blend. It's Pahrumps' finest. It's a mix of the right stuff. Where that flat track, I think, after one more rain and a little more mixing in, is gonna be really good. Let's see. Look into Corks, the local hair scramble series. What are we talking about here? Private discussions on the chat room. Mike Mead asks, any recommendations for two-way radios? Yes, Mike. I am not a big radio fan, but if you want to do anything radio related with motorcycles and you want to do it Sano, look at PCI race radios. So I think it's PCIradios.com. or PCIraceradios.com. I was actually looking at their stuff today because I'm looking to get a setup for my UTV. And they have, actually, I think they have a Christmas special going on right now with some of the motorcycle setups. So PCI Radios, they're great people. They support the off-road racing. That's what we used, their setups, when I was riding with Johnny in Baja. And good stuff. So Victor says, BS, I am old and I don't like Rekluse. Well, it's because I don't know why. Because you wear Levi's and you ride an XR 400. Eric Hall likes his Rekluse. He says so right there. Let's see. Not a commercial for Rekluse, just great info, says Danielle Oliver. Am I saying that right? Oliver. Thanks, Jimmy. Yeah. Huh. Did okay, right?
Yeah.
Yep. That's why I'm wearing the hat. Let's see. I took Jimmy's suggestion on Rekluse, and I cannot thank you enough. Love it. See? Let's see. Daniel says Jeremy in Washington went with the 2020 XC300. No regrets. Based on my advice? Somebody actually listened to my advice. You know, so I spent a lot of time talking to this one guy about he wanted to come and take the class and he wanted to get a bike. And the first thing I said was, he said, "What bike should I get?" What do you think I told him? Just guess. Don't give the answer out. What do you think I told him? What do I always tell people? What's the best bike ever?
KTM 500.
Right. Okay. For right now, we're not going to talk about the Husaberg, because if I rode the Husaberg around that track today, you'd still be out there shoveling the dirt that flew 40 feet off the side of that flat track. You'd be out there with a broom and a shovel putting it back on. That's how much power that Husaberg has, unlike the sputtering XR100. But the KT, so yeah, I told this guy, I said, hey, you should, I don't know a whole lot about you, but if you just, because you wanted kind of an adventure bike, you wanted something you could ride on the trails, all this stuff, and just get a KTM 500. And so not too long after that, he signed up for the class. He said, hey, and I took your advice. I bought the Honda CR 450L. And I'm like, okay, I don't remember when I gave you that advice, but he read it on Dirt Bike Test. He read that I said it was a really nice bike, and so it was good. It was good advice, and he's very happy with his motorcycle. So shows what I know. I mean, you got it off of YouTube, right? So it's free. Okay. Yeah, Bob, you always have a slow connection on your end, so don't blame me. We're spitting this out way slower than you're receiving it, so your connection must really suck. Yes, Johnny does need to come back on the show. Actually, I was thinking about calling Ricky Braybeck on the show, wasn't I? Because I'm supposed to call him. I was supposed to call him about 2:00 this afternoon, and then I got busy installing a light, and then somehow I got flat track on the brain. We got
dizzy.
Yeah, we did.
We got dizzy.
It would have been better if we had two bikes out there, but you didn't get here soon enough.
Yeah.
So let's see. Is there any kind of general workout routine you like? Kevin Omo is asking me that. So, Kevin, it really depends on my mood. You've probably heard about the Jimbo training program. Now, this is not something that you can buy. It's kind of super top secret, but I will tell you that there could be an occasional 12-ounce curl. Sometimes just tequila. It just depends. But no, me, back to being honest, I currently like running. Is my kind of go-to to just get a workout. I like riding mountain bikes, but it's kind of a hassle because I actually have to put on some gear and go do it. Running, I just put my shoes on and I go. So I guess it's because I'm lazy and I like Rekluses that I just like running. But and then as far as workout stuff, I do sit-ups, push-ups, pull-ups, and stretching. And just some really simple stuff like that, and it seems to keep me in shape. And then just ride, and more riding will help, which is kind of fun, really, as far as training goes. So hopefully that answers the question. Let's see. Jimmy, steering stabler question. I have seen a few opinions on the Africa Twin, Rally, BRP, Scots, etc. Require additional mounting hardware and some use of the tank attachment only. What's your take on the best bang for the buck? I don't know specifically about the mounting on the Honda Africa Twin. I haven't really looked into it that much. That bike doesn't, it's like, there's some bikes that don't need a steering stabilizer that much, and the Africa Twin, I believe, is a very stable bike. But in the same sentence, I've never met a bike that didn't benefit in some way from a steering stabilizer, properly tuned, set up steering stabilizer. And so when I start saying that, properly tuned and set up, I have a favorite. And I really like the Scots steering stabilizer for the main reason that it doesn't valve back to center, which some of the other stabilizers do. So it's what they call free back to center. And then the high and low speed adjustments are very, very independent. In other words, when you adjust the low speed, it only affects the low speed. And when you adjust the high speed, it only affects the high speed. So there's some other stabilizers that when you adjust one, it affects the other and things like that. So that may be better if you just want to make it, and there's some that feel like you over-tightened your headset. So if you like that feeling, then you can over-tighten your headset or you can buy a steering stabilizer. So I don't think you can go wrong with the Scots because you can adjust it into working exactly how you want it no matter what. There's no confusion with it. I just don't know what the mounting situation is on that particular bike. So I have no experience with the Rally. The BRP is, I think you're talking about GPR. No, maybe BRP Scots. BRP is the one that makes the triple clamps and a lot of the mounting parts that go with the Scots kit. And I think sometimes people confuse that with GPR, which is another steering stabilizer. Those ones valve back to center, and that's just personally me, not for me. And I think they may make one. I don't know if they make one that valves back to center. I haven't really experienced with them too long. I have one on one of our rental bikes, and I feel like I should take it off all the time, every time I get on the bike. So it's always set at 1, the least. Let's see. No, the new Climb Pack do not come with the hydration bladder. You have to pay extra for it. Okay. That's the answer then, because that's the second person that's told me that. So sounds pretty good. PCIRaceRadios.com was the number for PCI. Thanks, George. You're killing it as usual. And I haven't crashed your motorcycle yet. But wait, I did crash it.
You did.
Oh, yep. You saw it.
I saw the
skid mark on the ground?
Yeah.
Where my head?
Saw all the footprints.
You saw that, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was our sand motos last week.
Yeah.
How was that?
That was fun.
Yeah. We did sand moto. I should have taken the 125. I wouldn't have crashed the 125. So what's Logan's rant for this week? It can't be silence. I got a little bit of sip here. What do you got? What were you going to talk about? You asked the one question about the black Yamaha and
I don't know.
You don't know.
Yeah.
That's a hard question.
Have Logan ask me a question?
Yeah.
Do you have a question for me, Logan?
What's your favorite type of riding?
Depends on what day it is.
Yeah.
It's whatever kind of riding I didn't do last.
Yeah.
So like I just got done flat tracking, so right now I have no desire to go flat track. Well, actually it was pretty good, so I might want to go back. But if I did it 2 days in a row, I wouldn't want to do flat track. And so that's why I'm going to hop on my adventure bike and ride back to California. So I'm going to go adventure bike riding, and I promise you when I get back there, I will not want to ride the adventure bike. Especially, I'll probably want to go sit in the bathtub with really hot water and thaw out. And then whatever I do next, if I go trail riding, then I'll want to go to the motocross track. So it's pretty simple. Just whatever I can do next that's a little bit different. It just keeps it interesting. It's fun, And motorcycles are fun. I don't know if anybody told you that. Steve Hall says, maybe this has been beaten to death already, but what do you think about removing the thermostat from an 18 FE 501? Usually ride in New England, but also doing the Tour of Idaho in 20. So I am not a fan of removing the thermostats on the 4-strokes, especially when you're riding them in cooler conditions, because they will actually, especially if you're moving down roads and stuff like that, they actually run a little bit too cool. And believe it or not, less horsepower, and it's not like it's going to cold seize or anything. But yeah, I have a 500 that has the thermostat removed on it, and I have one that has it in there, and I definitely noticed that one warms up quicker, and the one with it in there warms up quicker. I've never noticed any difference in them overheating, even when used in stuff. I mean, you know, I don't think there's a big deal. I don't think it's something you need to do. But you can go onto YouTube and probably find the guy who's going to sell you the thermostat removal kit, and he will have a very good argument on why you need to take it off. I'm positive. Is that guy bald? Because I think I am last time I checked. Let's see. Yeah, I'd like to get Ricky on the show too. Nobody wanted to call in, right? That we know of? Yeah, good. It's saving me 9 cents a minute. Let's see. Ricky, Shorty, repeat just prior to the car would be pretty badass. Those guys are getting on airplanes and leaving. Actually, Ricky's training tomorrow down in the sand dunes, and I think Andrew is down in Mexico. And then he's going to comment. Also, the worst part of using a Rekluse is listening to insecure goofs talk crap about something they don't understand. Hopefully you're talking about me there, and I resemble that comment. Let's see. The best place in the nation to live and ride. Jawbone Canyon, California. Let's see. Let's see. Jimmy, do you protect your hands on long hour races besides the moto gloves? No, I don't. My hands are calloused, and they're still calloused from the time I was like 16 or younger, because I had a firewood business. And that's how I learned I'd better learn how to use my brain as opposed to my muscles to make an income. And the firewood business built up these calluses on my hand that are still with me today. So I got some relatively tough hands. The wrists aren't so good, but the hands is they're working good. Rodrigo Lopez, what is a good cost benefit for the GPS? What is a good cost benefit for the GPS on a race like KOM? Well, you'll be able to find out where you're going. That's a good benefit. You're already spending $400 in entry fee. Why not, have some way to figure out where you're going? I mean, you could follow people, but I've seen people get stuck in a canyon. They said, I don't need a GPS. I'm just going to follow people. And they get stuck in a canyon, and the people that they were going to follow left, and they came out of the canyon, and then they're like, where do I go? So, yeah, GPSs are good. I mean, you'll find other uses for them. So, I think that's a good cost benefit. Voyager, I think the Voyager is the one that I prefer. I know a lot of guys like the Garmin eTrex for that. I don't actually want the maps on my GPS for that race, because I'm just going to keep my little arrow on the line. I don't need to see where everything's at, because I kind of know where it's at. Time to upload those onto Spotify. It's been so long since an update. Love listening at work. Thanks, Ryan. Yeah, I know. I haven't even put these up on Dirt Bike Test. That's how bad it's gotten. It's pretty simple. It just takes about 10 or 15 minutes to make the post. And haven't had time to do that. Gabe was going to do it, but he's too busy trying to tune my XR100 for flat track use. He says no, he's not. What are you doing to train for the 2020 KOM? Nothing. Nothing. if you make smart comments like that, I will use your bike to race that race. So, and I mean, the pipe dents are nothing compared to a dented frame. And if you look at my Husabergs, you'll see dented frames, and those are expensive to fix. What's the difference between a Rekluse and a traditional slipper clutch, if there is one? So, yes, there is. So, typically a slipper clutch only slips on deceleration. So it doesn't really, because basically the way they work is they're on ramps, and anytime the motor is spinning faster than the transmission. So in other words, if the transmission is spinning faster than the motor, it allows the clutch to slip, so you don't get wheel chatter and stuff. It's less compression braking on 4-stroke, stuff like that. And then once the motor starts driving or pulling again, it pretty much locks the clutch back down into normal activation. A Rekluse can slip a little bit on deceleration, but it really it doesn't. It depends on how you have it set up. I mean, the problem is when you lock up a Rekluse, you lock up your wheel and it disengages. You have to give it gas again for it to engage. Where the slipper clutch, there's always some sort of drag, so the wheel can sometimes pull it back into. It doesn't totally disengage, is my experience with them. So okay. Is Jimmy doing the 2020 King of the Motos? I don't know yet. It's a good question. George seems to think that I am. He thinks I'm training for it. Was flat track training? Was that good training for King of the Motos today?
Yeah.
You sure?
No.
Why? Anytime you're on a motorcycle is training, right?
Yeah.
That's what you tell your dad when you want to go riding. It's like, I'm going training. Yeah, you'll learn that.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you wish you learned earlier in your? What did I wish I'd learned earlier in my motorcycle career? Balance. Yeah, I wish I would have been more balanced. Man, all the stuff I teach in my class, I wish I would have known when I was racing, because I would have been so much more effective at practicing. Kevin Omo asks, are there any rally training rides in the U.S. before the 2020 Sonora rally? Rally training rides? I don't know. I know there's some other guys that do those. I do a real specific training school, and I don't do it that often, and I only do it with people that are really, really committed to it, because it's not cheap and it requires a lot of practice. So Grant Plansky joined. Hey, Grant, did you get that KTM 500 XCW? How is it? That's like I got a text every morning. He's like, hey, have you got that bike? How is it? And he already bought one. It's like, would you want my affirmation on how good that bike is? I'm pretty sure it's going to be good. Kip Boost says, Mike Johnson, owner of Rally Comp, and Matt Sutherland are both doing Africa Eco Rally with Lyndon Poskett's team. Races to places. Do you know if it mimics the early Dakar routes? Kip, yes. It does to the point that they can, based on the wars that are going on in the region. So I think it's more like the early Paris to Dakar routes, but it was similar to the route that I did in, I believe it was 96, or half of the route that I did, because I got diarrhea, kind of like I do with my mouth in this show. So why would anyone want a slipper clutch on dirt? I can't figure out why you would, says Mike Smith. To reduce compression braking. A lot, especially in the early 4-strokes, they weren't able to tune the ignitions to the level that they are now. And so it would just help the bike feel more like a 2-stroke. So it was kind of a tool that they were using. It's really popular in road racing. And especially in supermoto, a lot of guys were using, because it eliminated kind of the wheel chatter. That way, the compression braking didn't cause the wheel to start skipping. But in the dirt, there was a lot of guys running them in motocross in the early days. So I don't think so much anymore. I wonder if the KTM adventure bikes still have slipper clutches in them. I know my 950 does. And I don't know. I've never had to open the clutch on my 1090 or 1190, so I don't know. But let's see. Ryan Miller, Jimmy, have you ever experienced chatter in the low end with a Rekluse? My old man just picked up a 450X and it chatters like crazy when lugging it around. Well, good thing he's an old man, because otherwise that Rekluse wouldn't work for him. Yes, I think it's chattering a couple things. I would go ahead and pull it apart and check to make sure. See what kind it is first, because if it's one of the older EXP discs, and I can speak to this because I just replaced one of my older EXP discs that had the old ball bearing ramps, not the Teflon slider ramps, and it was chattering a little bit. But man, what an improvement the newer discs. So EXP2 to EXP3 would be the difference in those two, and it's literally just a drop in. You take the old one out, put the new one in, and big improvement. But see what kind it is. It could be, it could be the old Z-Start Pro, and those actually engage pretty smooth. So I'm thinking it might be an early EXP. Sometimes just based on the spring combination that you have and the weights of the wedges, it can make it chatter. And then I've also noticed that if it's gotten really hot and something is warped inside of there, it makes it kind of grab, release in there.
You take the judder spring out?
The judder spring out. And the Honda. I don't know. It didn't say anything about that, but that's why you got to take it apart and look at it. I think Rekluse actually has you leave it in there. And I did in all of the ones that I built the last couple of years. I left the judder spring in there, and it didn't seem to cause any problems. So, and make sure your old man's not lugging around in third gear when he should be in first gear, because that's an old man technique. And really, a Rekluse will let you get away with it, but not for very long. You still need to be in the right gear, even though the clutch will do all the work for you. So Kip says, we like you running KOM. No, I'm not going to run it anymore, but I might try to ride it. I said that when I talked to Justin, who is now running it, and he started asking me a lot of questions about it, and I said, Justin, don't ask me any more questions, because I might ride your race. And so that was probably just an excuse to not answer any questions, because I'm mean. But maybe I actually would like to support it. I mean, it's an event that it was close to me. I invented it. I had a good run at it. I was happy with it. And if somebody can make it keep going, I'd probably like to support it. So maybe I'll ride it. You never know. George's 300 is looking pretty sweet for that right now. Chris Smith says, I swap between supermoto and off-road setups and was curious about the difference. I've just never ridden a bike with a slipper, just the Rekluse. Man, I always ran a slipper when I did supermoto, Chris. So the 690 and 701 have slipper coaches. Yeah, I know KTM has them in their bigger adventure bikes, or they had them. Yep. So that's what the form is saying now, that the bigger KTMs do have the slipper clutches in them. So we've done a pretty good job answering questions. We've almost gone an hour. Logan, you have one more minute. You're gonna eat it up with some. Did you write your rap yet?
What rap?
The one I just bought a dirt bike. Throw a pipe on that ride. That song.
Oh. That one.
That one. Yeah, you forgot about that, didn't you? Weren't you supposed to handle that? Did you do karaoke, by the way?
No.
No karaoke. Okay. So okay, I think we've done it. We haven't incurred a phone bill at this show. We've operated at the price of what we're getting paid. Gabe, you happy? If Gabe's happy, I'm happy. So we're all happy here. Good to see everybody in the chat room. Not sure whether we'll be back next week. Was it Christmas Eve? Would that be Christmas Eve next week?
So, yeah.
So I don't know. I have nothing better to do. Nobody's giving me gifts. Yeah, probably not going to go to church. Yeah, I think you never know. I'll just do a solo Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. We'll talk about all the Christmas gifts that you're expecting to get. What Santa Claus is going to bring you in your dirt bike future. Okay. I'm glad. Thanks for keeping the enthusiasts entertained. Thanks, guys, for watching. You have any sponsors you need to thank, Logan?
No.
Wait, how do you get your motorcycles?
My father.
Right. Okay, so one more time. Logan, do you have any sponsors you'd like to thank?
Thanks, Dad.
Right, and that's how you got here tonight?
Yeah.
I think he kicked you in the butt to get your ass over to do flat track. Otherwise, you wouldn't have seen that text I sent you. Right?
My phone was breaking.
Oh, yeah. Really, it's a valid excuse.
Believe it or not,
So,
we know how he is.
Yeah.
I jumped on him. He showed me his phone.
Yeah. So cool. Okay, guys. Well, we will see you if not next week. Oh, I was supposed to mention one other thing. I was supposed to mention is the I'm not really part of this club, but the Fuck You Racing has stickers for almost every state in the United States, and I have the Nevada things. Is there any way you can make that pop up on the screen right now, Gabe? So I should be in the very near future in possession of a number of these limited edition. It's a really cool logo that Jared Bernardo came up with, and so if you are interested, there's Google. Hey, Google sent 12 people to my riding school because they were interested in horse riding lessons. It told me that. There's a pretty picture of some waterfalls, and we're working on it. It's good. Don't worry. I like putting you on the spot over there.
I'm glad.
We're always so prepared around here, but. I guess they have them for most of the states now. If you can find the representative from your state, maybe you can earn a cute little sticker. Logan, you think you're going to get one?
I don't know.
You know what you got to do?
Help support a small family
Okay, it sounds good to me.
by selling T-shirts.
Right. Is that we're at least we're not ralphing off my motorcycles. I think that that you can by sliding the whole way around the flat track, keeping the wheels out of line the whole way. We'll go check the tracks, make sure it's good, and then you can get the sticker. The sticker that looks like we're not sure right now. It's getting close. It's getting there. Okay, so you're going to have to check our Facebook page or something like that. I'll put a picture of the sticker up. And so thanks for everybody for listening. That's it, and we will see you out in the trail, right, Logan?
Yes.
Cheers.